Hey everyone, it's me and Stinky. I don't know if you can see him up there. So today I wanted to talk about something that I call the 5 pursuits of every Canadian. Now it's kind of to replace the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I think that's what the Canadian one's called, but maybe to work with it. But it has a lot of overlapping themes, I'm sure. But so I'll go through them. So there's 5 categories. And the first is called the pursuit of health, and I consider it the most important one. And each one of these pursuits can be broken down further. So I break them down, I think, into each 3 categories, and there's even more details that can be brought up about them. But I'll try to give the underlying idea. So, anyways, pursuit of health. Pursuit of health would be free food, water, and shelter, or to little no cost. Also, free hygienics. I don't necessarily mean like free soap, but like free tampons, pads. I'm not sure if there's anything else, girls, that need that's sanitary like that. Maybe even include birth control or condoms in that category. These things should be free or to little to no cost for everyone to be available. I'm not talking about everyone deserves like a sirloin steak for free, but I mean like there should be access to reasonably healthy food, clean water, and reasonable shelter. And that's for everybody, no matter if you're rich or poor. Some people think it's weird. Well, like, what do you mean a rich person can't afford those things? Growing up, when I was in school, and where I go to school, we have a lunch program. I think is actually done all across Canada. But like, if there's kids that were starving, they would always have food available for anyone. Non-discrimination, or there's no discrimination against them. And there was a kid that had a parents with good income, but they never gave him breakfast, and he was always hungry in the morning, and he always wanted to eat, but he never did because he was afraid people would make fun of him for it. And to me, I think that kid deserved food, but yeah, I guess he felt like he didn't have to. Now that I realize that's more of a bullying discrimination problem than access to free food in that situation. I was just trying to display an instant where someone could be hungry despite their apparent wealth. I'm sure there's better examples people could think about. Put them in the comments if you want. Yeah. So also in this category, the pursuit of health category would be accessibility and timely health care. Now, I personally believe in Canada we have timely health care. I know a lot of people disagree with that. I don't think it can be much better considering the way we function. It's not like a pay to get accelerated, right? Like, obviously, if you're in a country you can pay to get better services, you're going to get better time. But that would defeat the purpose of this pursuit. I think there's still ways we can pursue to improve time. But I think reasonable would be what we currently have. Accessibility, I think, is pretty good in Canada. So this is something we kind of already have, but I still feel it needs to be mentioned. It needs to be one of the categories. But when I include, and the third part of this would be, which is kind of falls in with the second one, is free healthcare in all health sectors. So it includes dental, regular Medicare that's already covered by us. What Medicare already covers, sorry. So then there would be eye care, medication, to some extent physiotherapy. I don't think physiotherapy is currently covered. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it is. And then we also don't cover psychology or psychologists' work, or whatever you call that, sorry. So those things I feel should be included, or included to an extent. Maybe everyone should be given some kind of health care package on top of their Medicare. Like, would that make sense? Like a free health insurance thing? So like, with regular dental through my Blue Cross covers 80% of my dental cost up to $800 a year, I think is what it is. So maybe there should be something like that for Canadian citizens. They cover a percentage of costs at the very least for those things. But I think it should be all completely covered. But yeah. Anyways, that's the pursuit of health category. I'm sure there's other things people think about should go there. But I think in life it's pretty hard to succeed at other things if you're worrying about those things in your life. So I feel like those should all be free. These are things that shouldn't be holding you back. Next, the next one, which I consider the second most important, but I could understand why others would not consider this the second most important pursuit. Anyways, it's the pursuit of knowledge. So it's to provide free education for all, including secondary education. I'm not expecting them to replace privatized education, but there should be some kind of standard secondary education across that Canadians all get paid, are all available to, rich or poor. Now, I guess I could be wrong, but I think when Trudeau took office, he did implement something where households with a certain lower income could get in for free or a reasonable cost for the first year or something. And there's other programs out there, I'm sure of it. But this idea would just try to make things simple. Like, it's just free education across the board. It's something you just sign up for and go to. Maybe if you didn't try to go in, you'd get kicked out, or if you failed grades or something like that. Maybe there's still other criteria, but in regards to economics or cost, it shouldn't be there. The next one will be accessibility to education. Now that's just as important as the free education part. Like in New Brunswick, I could be wrong, maybe there's more schools up north, but if you want to go to school, you pretty much have to go to like St. John, Moncton, or Fredericton. So it sucks for people that are further up north. And I'm sure that's similar to other areas. Maybe there are schools up north that I'm not really aware of. Yeah, but I don't think there's very good options. Like in my city, I think we have like 3 or 4 colleges. We have 2 universities, and there's a bunch of those, what do you call them? Those, I don't want to call them fake colleges. That's not nice. Compy colleges or something? I forget what they're called. But anyways, what I mean is in Fredericton we have tons of options for school, but the further up north you don't, and their programs I imagine are weaker, if there's any. Like I know in places like Boys Town, Doketown, they don't have anything. At least not in Boys Town. Point is, there needs to be better accessibility to education, or some way to help bridge the gap. Because if you're facing financial needs or something, you need to stay close to home, or you have other commitments that makes it so you can't leave, that's a really big struggle. The third part of pursuit of knowledge, which I argue is one of the most important ones, despite the fact everyone will think this is weird, experimental facilities for all to use. Now, I don't mean like anyone can willy-dilly go in and do some stupid stuff and leave. And when I say experimental facilities, it could be a place for people to go do photography, or it could be a place for people to go do bigger types of experiments. It's like, I think in universities, this is already a common thing. For people on campus, they have these areas to use. I'm saying this should be accessible by everyone. Areas like this to do different things. The pursuit of knowledge for everyone that has the option. Because there's a few things in my life, personally, I felt like I was interested in. I was like, oh, if I had the resources, I think I'd be interested in trying to figure it out, or something like that, right? And this one by itself might seem confusing or unnecessary to people, but I think it's very important. It would help if people knew these resources were readily available and stuff. I think that would encourage people to try to learn more as adults, because that's a really big thing. A lot of adults don't seek to learn more. But I think it will work well with some of the other ones down here, like one of my later pursuits, which is Pursuit of Purpose. But that one's not the next one. The next pursuit I want to talk about is the pursuit of safety and justice. The one I think is the third most important. I could see why someone might think this should be the first or second most important. Probably should have put it as the second, but it's the third for me. So, pursuit of safety and justice. The first part of it is quick emergency response. There needs to be the best, quickest, and most available, up-to-date services available to every citizen. No one should be waiting 2 hours to get their life saved. Now, obviously, in certain situations, like maybe like a terrible snowstorm, that's acceptable. I mean, not that it's acceptable, sorry, but I mean, you shouldn't put the rescuers in significant risk just to get you. So they would still try to get to you, but they'd have to slow down. Obviously, they can't go 150 down a highway in the middle of a snowstorm. I don't know, maybe they can, maybe their cars are equipped, I don't know. I don't know much about that either. I don't know much about anything. I just have opinions. And the next part would be correction centers instead of prisons. Now, I'm not saying we get rid of prisons altogether, or that correction centers will be the ends to all means, or whatever, however that saying goes, but I think it would be important to find ways to put these people back into society to contribute. I personally don't believe in the death penalty, and locking people up in prison is just not sustainable. It's not really that I want all these people back on the streets, or I think they deserve necessarily to be back on the street, but the reality is I don't believe in death penalty, and keeping them in prison is a waste of resources, in my opinion. It's better that we can find a way that they are equipped to go back into society, where hopefully they're not going to commit crime. Maybe there's a better way to monitor them. And then they can also, in some ways, redeem themselves. Yeah, I don't know. So I think that's more important than prisons, but that one also is it's its own topic, I guess, to get into. But I think it's one of the pursuits of safety and justice. We should be working to make them better and to fix the problem they had instead of just punishing. And the third part of pursuit of safety and justice would be the accessibility to fair emergency services. So like a way like 911, obviously we already have access to that. Other regards, there should be multiple ways to get help. I could be wrong, but I think if anyone has a cell phone, even if your services aren't hooked up, you can call 911, which I think is an important option. There should be a way to contact them on the computer effectively. There may already be, I don't know about it. And another important part of this too would be, I guess, I'm not sure where this exactly falls in, but we're talking about the safety and justice. It should also include things like not to be judged by race, age, sex, religion, those various things. I'm sure there's more to that, continue on, you know what I mean. Should also be included there. And obviously it should be a fair court system where everyone's heard. Yeah, I guess I feel like pursuit of safety and justice should have more said about it. I'm just not really sure what more to say. Like, it's not coming to my brain, I guess. So we'll just move on to the next one, the fourth pursuit, the pursuit of purpose. I mentioned this one before. I think it's a very important one. If you get all those three before, pursuit of purpose should be something people can already sort of establish themselves. But anyways, this one would just be there to help encourage it along. And it would be things like universal income, or some kind of system where we provide a little bit of income to people so they don't have to focus just on work. They can focus maybe on a secondary pleasure task like developing culture or art, or pursuing another career, or investing in education. And another one would be access to cultural development. So I don't know, maybe facilities similar to what I was mentioning for like experimental facilities, but a place for people for free to practice their cultures. So in Canada we have many different cultures intermixing, not just the new ones that are immigrating in, but we have old cultures that are here, not just Western style too. We have Native Americans. We should be giving Native Americans more options to express as well. Because I mean, a lot of the communities don't have a lot of resources themselves, but if we establish a place where we say anyone can fairly express their culture and develop it more, and help integrate it into Canada, then that's wonderful. That's how I feel anyways. And the final part of, I guess, pursuit of purpose would be always a job available by the government. This is by no means, I think, an easy task to accomplish, but they could pay small wages for silly things, like in the way of research or development, or in some way that these people are able to get an income, develop skills, and maybe even lead them to a private sector job. If someone's looking for a job, they should be given a job. Anyways, I'm not sure how sustainable that is, but that's how I feel. Like, if someone's looking for a job, there should be a job available for them. And I know Star Trek's just a fantasy world where anything can happen, but I remember in Deep Space Nine, that was one of the controversies in one of the episodes, where the Captain Sisko went back in the past and he was dealing with a part in human society that obviously didn't happen in our world. Like, it's in the future, and even though they went in the past, it's still in the future from our time. And one of the things people were fighting for was to get access to just jobs being given to them, despite not being jobs available. So a system where they can make jobs and pay these people for these jobs. So the only people that are jobless are people that choose to be jobless. I think that will help create a better opportunity to encourage a working class. Like, there's going to be a lot more criticism towards people that choose not to work and don't invest in culture and just suck off society. Like, I feel like there'd be an option to have more pressure on those people. But yeah, so that's the pursuit of purpose. I don't really think a lot more should be shoved in there. Maybe someone else has an opinion on that one. That one is one, obviously, I know is like kind of a far out there idea. A lot of people don't agree with those things. Like the three that I mentioned prior, I think a lot of people would agree with me that it should be implemented in some way for all countries. The pursuit of purpose part, a lot of people would say is unreasonable, but I think it's important as well. And the next pursuit, though, the fifth pursuit, which I think is the very least important, but somewhat still important, considerably important, is the pursuit of politics. The ability to run for office and start your own political parties. To get proper funding for them too, obviously. I don't know how the line would be drawn on who gets money for political parties. Now, I know there's already a system in Canada where if you can develop a party with enough members and stuff, they will give you some startup money or something to that degree in Canada. But I think there needs to be more accessibility to it, and more options. I think more parties is actually probably a healthier political system. I think a lot of people will argue that's more bureaucracy. Not really sure what to say about that, because sometimes bureaucracy can be good, sometimes it can't be. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, regardless, I think the ability to run for office and start your own political party should still be an option. The ability to vote freely. Now, in Canada, we basically already have that. We have pretty reasonable accessibility. Like, geez, my voting station is just down the street from me, and then there's another one just a few blocks away for the next neighborhood. And it's like that like everywhere, I'm assuming. It's just there's a convenient place for everyone to vote. Yeah, as far as I know, there's no problems in Canada with that, but it's still part of the pursuit of politics. It's still an important part. And to vote freely, too, would be no discrimination for who you're voting for, and whatnot. I think the voting system, or how we run how a person's chosen, is wrong, or should be changed, but that's not really part of the 5 pursuits. I think the system should just be changed in general, but voting, regardless, is to be able to vote freely without discrimination. Yeah, And the third part of pursuit of politics would be the access to correct political information. There's a lot of bias out there. There should be an easy place for people to gather all the information they need about all the parties. Some way to keep track of their history and stuff too. Maybe it should be like a government site that posts all the running political parties and a little bit about them. Maybe even the political parties will have access to the site to update their own stuff. So I think that would be important. Often it's pretty hard to find out. You can find out about a party's platforms when you research it a little bit, but when you're watching just their debates, I find there's very limited. The information you get is very limited and almost unuseful. Like not very useful. It doesn't really give you an idea. So just a spot where maybe that could be categorized, where people should, maybe where the parties have to clearly state their goals. Maybe that should be a thing. Like make parties clearly state their goals or what they're going to try to implement. So yeah, like I said, these are the 5 pursuits I think every Canadian deserves. I think pretty much every citizen of the world deserves, but I live in Canada. I probably shouldn't be dictating other countries' politics. But yeah, thanks for listening.